Today I'm going to be working on it's a DVG pump. Foreign car. Actually, this particular one fits a 59 Mercedes 190. Comes with the priming lever. Pretty familiar arm. This arm is so close to the flathead Ford ones. Anyway, there's a lot to it, so we're going to get to it. The first thing we want to do is mark the orientation of the fittings. Taking a picture of it, drawing it on a piece of paper or on your wall, doesn't matter. You want to get these fittings out because behind them is a fiber washer gasket. And that one's on the floor. We gotta save them. And there's another nut over this side, which should have another gasket. And we also have this little screw here, which is usually used to drain the pumps. Why you'd want to drain it, I don't. Well, if you wanted to change the filter, I guess. Another little small gasket. And under here should be the filter. With another gasket. This one uses an O-ring to seal it. Spring. I don't know what the spring is for. Oh, just to hold the to hold the screen down. But yet this gasket and the cover would hold the screen down. So it is a useless thing for it. Remove the 6 screws and we'll be ready for it. We can check out the valves. Once all these screws are taken out, this is similar to, like I said, that Ford. Early Fords used the same style valves. Now, the only thing I'm not sure of is to remove the diaphragm down and back, just like the regular AC. Now this seal, no rubber, just a metal cup that sits down on this ring right here. The spring in the center holds that. The size of the pull rod on this thing. Well, anyway, this one's ready to get cleaned up, bead blasted, clear coated, and then we'll be ready for some assembly. Let's get these valves out of the way. The valves are held in by these three little screws. Be careful you don't drop these. There's also the smallest little lock washer. So be careful with that too. You don't want to lose any of these. Now this retainer, this is one of the seats right here for the valves. This holds a spring, so that's going to get cleaned up. One of the valves, spring, spring, and another valve. And we got a gasket. And this is the spring seat. Be careful you don't lose that either. Now what I like to do when I go to class bead them is I put these little screws right back in. That way I can clean the screws and keeps the glass beads from getting pushed down into the threads. Okay, she's ready. We'll get this all cleaned up. We'll actually clean up the fittings too. We'll be back. One of the upgrades we're going to do to this DVG pump, instead of just a metal cover sitting over that, we're going to put a regular seal in there. It's a regular oil seal. I just wanted to show you the way that link is. See how it's got that little turn at the end. It's just something that makes life miserable for somebody who's trying to do this and you don't see the inside of it. I had forgotten all about it. So you got to kind of start, instead of pull rod being straight like that, you got to have to twist it a little bit to try to catch that. And this can be a pain in the neck. One little thing is, if you can get in between the spring in between the spring and the link to hold it from pushing down. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. There. See? It helps. Now we're onto the fuel section. Okay, the first thing you want to do after getting everything all nice and clean and all these surfaces all nice and flat, you want to clean this area here where the valve sits, just to make sure that the valve sits down good and tight. Remove the screws. Remember, there's a little lock washer in there that you don't want to drop. Otherwise it gets picked up by the floor gnomes. That's where all little washers and little screws go. Okay, put the spring seat back in. One of the new valves. And I just dropped the spring. Set the spring down in there. The other spring on top of the valve. Set the valve. Do your best to set the valve on top of that spring without knocking everything else over. It's not the easiest thing in the world. Oh. Okay, we'll get back to that. Okay, I got that thing sitting there. The original one of these gaskets that sits down in here had a little cut out of the corner of it. And what that's for is so that it stays away from this other valve right here. The other valve was going to lift up and it's going to go right by that. This is another one of those areas that's it's kind of tricky. It's not the easiest pumps to do. This is another area that you want to clean up and make sure it's flat. The only way to do this is to get it lined up with it and do it all at once. Just push it down. Once you get two of the screws cut, it'll kind of hold itself in there. Like I said, it's not the easiest, not one of the easier pumps to do, but they work like a charm. Get the third one in. And tighten them all up. You want to make sure that it's in there good. One of these holes oh, I forget how they go. I think this is the out. Actually, this side. The fuel comes out, so it goes in here. And goes down through. Everything gets filtered on the bottom of it. So anything that comes in, any dirt that comes in that tries to go up, it's going to get filtered and drop back down. The rest of the fuel that gets through, will go down through the hole into the pump and gets pushed out. And that's the lesson for today. Don't forget to put the little gaskets on. Tighten them up. This side is the one that gets plugged. Easiest way to make sure that see, these gaskets tend to, well, I'll show you in a second. On one of these. The other gasket moves around, but it sits on that ledge right there. So in order to make sure that it stays right there, otherwise if you put it on here and try to tighten it up, the gasket tends to sit in the wrong spot. So what I do is I gotta tip everything up this way. And run them up and tighten them up. New screen, no spring. You don't need the spring. This gasket is going to hold it down. New washer on the nut, on the bolt. And we'll make sure that this goes in first. And snug it down. Okay, I got everything together, and it turned out I couldn't get the inlet to seat right. And after closer inspection, this right here, see how it's all smooth right there? And it's raised up over this side. Somehow the seat is worn at an angle. And as soon as the edges of the valve get out there, it keeps it from sealing. What I'm going to have to do is, I'm going to have to drill this out, and I'll put in a new seat. It's the only way that's going to get fixed. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Well, it took some doing, but I got a new seat in there. Let's see how this one works. Good Lord, you wouldn't believe what I had to go through. I ended up changing that plate because this, on the original plate, See how that's flat? With this new plate, it's recessed in, allows the spring to move. It wouldn't move. It was locking it up. Change it over. It's perfect now. I think we can finally put this together. Mounted in the vise. Find your reference mark. Get one of the screws caught. Don't run it down all the way. You just want to get it caught just to hold it. Put the rest of the screws in. After you get all the screws down to the casting, it's still loose. Leave it loose. You want to get something on the arm. I use an adjustable wrench. And pull the arm up so that it pulls the diaphragm down inside the pump. Now you can tighten up the screws. By doing that, you're preloading the diaphragm so that it doesn't stretch out and prematurely wear out. We wouldn't want that to happen. See how the string isn't really that strong in this pump. You can test it to see how the thing will work. Move the arm up and down. Hold your finger over the inlet. You'll feel suction on there. And as you're letting go, you'll feel pressure. If it drops real fast, while you're still holding your thumb over it, then you got a leak somewhere. Same thing with this. If you can pull it up real quick and it's like you don't feel anything here, first place to check is around here and all these gaskets. Otherwise, this puppy's ready to go. I wanted to show you something first. Remember I mentioned how this arm looked like a flathead Ford? Here's a pump from a 36 Ford. Everything looks about the same. A little bit bigger in the fuel section, but the bodies are basically the same. The arms are the same. Uses the same gasket. Aside from this cup. So I wonder if you get into a situation with your Mercedes where your pump is lost, throw one of these on it. Of course the fittings are a little different, but you can make it work. That's it for today.